at Harvard University. She's also a staff writer at The New Yorker. A prize-winning professor, she teaches classes in evidence, historical methods, humanistic inquiry, and American history. Much of her scholarship explores absences and asymmetries in the historical record, with a particular emphasis on history of technology of evidence. As a wide prolific essayist, Lepore writes American history, law, literature, and politics. She recently launched a fascinating podcast called The Last Archive, which examines the history of evidence, proof, and knowledge in these troubled times. She is the author of many award-winning books, including the international 2018 bestseller, These Truths, The History of the United States. Her book, If Then, How the Simulmatics Corporation Invented the Future, is just published to rave reviews. Robin Young is the award-winning host of Here and Now on NPR, heard here on WBEUR. Under her leadership, Here and Now has established itself as a public radio indispensable midday news magazine, hard-hitting, up to the moment, and always culturally relevant. A Peabody Award-winning documentary filmmaker, Robin has been a correspondent for ABC, NBC, CBS, and the Discovery Channel. She is a former guest of the Today Show on TV, one of the first hosts on Boston's groundbreaking television show, Evening Magazine. Robin has received 5 Emmys for her television, as well as KBS Awards, the Religious Public Relations Council's Wilbur Award, National Conference of Christian and Jews Gold Award, and numerous regional Edward R. Murrow Awards. Welcome, Robin and Jill, and thanks especially to you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to talk to us about this very important, timely subject. Now, Robin, I hand the discussion to you.
Linda, thank you so much. And Mary Catherine, oh my God, I've missed you so much. So it's so nice to see you as well. And Jill, you know, fantastic always to see you. We're all stuck in our basements, you know, here. And I just have to say, please don't introduce me after Jill Lepore. It's just so silly. I just can't even. But, you know, Jill, you and I have spoken before about this. I have my hymnal with me, which I'm sure many of you have. It is well thumbed, highlighted. You know, the whole thing is highlighted. And, you know, I wanted to talk, as we have in the past, Jill, about passages like George Washington on his deathbed with more blacks in the room than whites, or some of the sentences that you crafted in this book. One that I just love, I actually printed it out. This is when free Americans received their copies of the Constitution in their newspapers. They were asked to consider this thing they found folded in their newspaper as they went about baling hay, milling corn, tanning leather, singing hymns, letting the seams out of last year's winter coats for parents grown fatter, kids grown taller, history preserved like baby teeth in a jar in the 4 parchment sheets of that Constitution, and in hundreds of newspapers where arguments for and against appeared alongside the shipping news. Writing your butt off here. You know, I wanted to ask you about these different passages, and then we came to today and we got gobsmacked by this moment that we're in. So I have to ask you, everything you know, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it through this moment?
Oh my God, I don't know. First, let me just say it's always so fun to talk with you. I still think you and I should like do our own regular thing. Like we need just to, I don't know, we need to invent some new level podcast. It's just yeah, so it's a delight to speak with you. But as you know, you and I we are just kind of flat on our backs with the exhaustion of reckoning with this moment as journalists and historians and everyone here in the Zoom call, as citizens, as parents, as children and brothers and sisters, as people who have jobs. Like there's just so much grappling to do. You know, like I want a grappling hook. Like what am I supposed to hold on to? You know, I was saying the other day that I felt as though I've been falling down a well for 4 years. And then on Saturday, it felt like, I got to the bottom of the well. There's a rope and this light. And then I feel like the bottom fell again. Like, I just don't know where we all are. So there is hope. We'll be fine. How's that?
Well, but we'll reach back to history and convince me of that, because here we have a president, the first ever to refuse to concede. But not only that, firing the top people at the Pentagon, replacing them with loyalists. Now, this could just be a hissy fit, or it could be, as a whole bunch of Americans are fearful, he has people in place who, unlike Esper, will agree with him that the military should take to the streets during a time of protest, which may be coming up if he doesn't leave office. There are Americans who firmly believe that, others who believe that he might strike Iran in the couple months that we have. I know that there have been times, Adams, I think, who was unhappy, at losing an election, but can you reach anywhere? Oh, and throw in a pandemic. Can you reach anywhere where you can find this time?
No, and I recognize. I mean, I'm a historian. Like I happen to believe we can learn a lot from the study of the past, and in particular, the relationship from the past to the present. But I actually think, in the case of trying to make sense of this administration, it has almost always been a mistake, frankly, to try to find the antecedent, to look for precedent, to see the analogy that renders legible this behavior in a way, and not of course, we're all going to look for that. That's kind of how we think. And I too have done that many times. And you can say, oh, it's George Wallace plus Huey Long, plus McCarthy. Like if you rolled those three things together with Barnum, you'd get there's people try to come up with like almost a mathematical formula. Like a kitchen recipe somehow that would explain like what elements of the American past get us here. And I think that exercise hasn't actually really gained us an understanding of Trump or of the Republican Party at the end of the day. That is to say, the historical, it's a little bit like if you've ever had an encounter, and of course, so many of us have, with a family member who, falls into a profound experience of mental illness, and no longer, you can't actually anticipate what will happen next, because